know, and like everyone always talks about like, oh, newborns, that newborn stage is so boring. All they're doing is eat, sleep, and poop. But that wasn't the case for us. Like she was either crying or she was sleeping. And it was just like this endless cycle. Like we just didn't understand like what was going on, what was happening. It just didn't feel right. Like something was wrong. And mind you, whenever we did go to the pediatrician the first day, I did say like, oh, she's kind of red and she did have like low-grade fever, like a 99-ish. She was like, oh, it's fine. It's probably because she was crying and that's why she was so upset and like warm. And we're like, okay. We did undress her the first day to get her assessed. I talked about how red she was and I was like, she's really red and she's really irritable. I don't know if this cry is abnormal because again, like I said, I've been around other babies and she cried a different cry. And the doctor was like, oh no, like this is just the way she is. And we're like, okay. And like when she cried, it was like a high pitch wailing almost. And now we know why she cries like that. This is the 4th night that she's been born and Lanissa was coming over soon. And my husband was like, okay, let's go change her diaper. Again, we did everything together. Again, we had this weird nervous feeling that we just didn't want to be like alone without each other. So we like walked here to this changing table behind me and he sets her down and he was like, can you go ahead and get it started? Undo her onesie and get her diaper ready. I'm gonna go feed Moo, which is our dog. So that he like lays her down. He starts walking out towards the garage, which isn't very far, to get Moo's food. And as soon as he puts her down, I'm like looking at her and I'm like about to undo her onesie, the snaps at the bottom, and I look at her and she just goes purple. Her arms kind of shoot up like this and her eyes were open and she was like looking kind of like in the distance, like in the corner, and she just, it looks like she's like stretching, you know, and you know, like some people hold their breath for a second when they're stretching, except she was holding that breath and kept holding it. And I'm looking at her chest and her chest isn't rising. And I'm like, I don't think she's breathing. So then he picks her up right away and he pats her on the back and stimulates her. And then all of a sudden she takes a gasp of air and then her purple color turns back to normal. And we're just kind of in shock. Like, did our daughter just stop breathing? Like it was very surreal. Like you don't expect that to happen, obviously, at 4 days old. On the changing table, like it was so surreal, so scary. Couldn't believe that just happened. Like we were almost like questioning ourselves, like, did she really just stop breathing? We couldn't believe it. And this was a few minutes before Lanissa was coming over. We're trying to stay calm and keep each other calm, and he's like holding her up still. And he takes her to the living room and he's like holding her up and like patting her on the back, and I'm sitting next to him and I just start crying. Because I'm thinking to myself, like, holy cow, like, what just happened? Like, what if this happens again? Like, is this normal? Like, do infants have a lot of trouble figuring out how to breathe still? Our neighbor comes over literally like 10 minutes later. And I look at her, again, she's a nurse, so she comes in and I had just finished crying on the couch. And she kind of looks at me and I was like, okay, I have to tell you something. I have to tell you what just happened. So I like tell her the story of what just happened. And as I'm telling her, I just start sobbing again. I was like, I'm scared. Like, what does that mean? Like, what am I supposed to do? And she's like, okay, well, how has she been since? I was like, well, it's been like 10, 15 minutes now. She's been breathing since. And she's like, okay, well, let's just, you know, kind of see how it goes. Like, it almost seemed like, did she really? Like, you start like doubting yourself, like, did she really like stop breathing? Or am I just like, was she just stretching for a really long time? I don't know how to explain it, but I had a really eerie feeling and it was just overwhelming. And I even looked at Anthony before Lanissa came over and I said, I'm really scared. And he was like, no, I am too. So the point of Lanissa coming over was help with like the latching and stuff. And at this point, she's been breathing, everything seems to be normal again. Like working on latching and she kind of is, kind of isn't, not really though. We tried with the bottle, tried a bottle feeder. She finally ended up taking an ounce with Lanissa, with like her just constantly like rocking and moving her around. We were like, oh, maybe she likes eating like that more because I was really active in my pregnancy, and maybe she just likes the movement. So like, okay, maybe that's just what we need to be doing. I have to end up pumping, and that's okay too. I just wanted her fed at this point. And I was producing enough milk so I didn't have to use formula. At this point, Lanissa's about to leave, probably like 9 at night or something. I don't know what time it was, to be honest. So Penny hadn't pooped at all. She has not made a dirty diaper. So the doctor was telling us to use a thermometer, put like Vaseline at the end and basically put it in her rectum to try to stimulate that muscle to poop. And she said to do it like every time she's about to feed, so like every 2 hours, which I knew wasn't going to work because she was losing weight, which means she's not getting enough food. If there's not enough food, like how are you gonna make a dirty diaper? So I actually felt bad every time that we had to stimulate her rectum because I just didn't think it was gonna work anyways. So then Lanissa was like, can you show me like how you guys have been doing it? Which makes sense because maybe we're doing it wrong. I don't know. They didn't do like a trial with us. She just kind of told us what to do. The nurse showed us how she does it, but we didn't get to try it, and we have a different thermometer. So then it was just, we were never sure if we were doing it right to begin with. So Anthony was like, okay, yeah. So we bring her back into this room. I show her on the table behind me how we simulated her rectum. Of course, it didn't work again. Then Lanissa's like laying her down on the bed right here, or on our master bed, and is about to swaddle her back up. And I'm going into the bathroom, which is right behind me, and I'm like washing thermometer and washing my hands and stuff. And as I'm going to the bathroom, my husband yells, Penny, Penny, Penelope, like really loud. So then I run back into the bedroom and I'm like, wait, what's happening? What's wrong? And he's like, Penelope, Penelope. Lanissa has her and is trying to stimulate her arms and her legs, and she's not breathing again. She's purple, just like she was before. And she's stimulating her and stimulating her. And now it's been, gosh, it feels like a lifetime. I can't even explain to you how long it was, but if I had to guess, maybe like 30, 45 seconds. I don't know how long. I could be completely wrong, but it felt forever. It felt way longer than it did whenever she was on here on the changing table. And she was just stimulating her, and she just would not take that breath. And then finally, after multiple tries, she did. And Lanissa just looks at me with this pure horror on her face, like, oh my gosh, like this really is happening. Like she stopped breathing in my arms. So I looked at my husband, I was like, we're going to the hospital now. Like we're gonna go to Texas Children's right now. He was like, okay. So Lanissa like held her while we packed her bags because we're thinking like, we don't know what's wrong with her. Sleep apnea, SIDS, we literally have no idea what's happening. And we get our stuff together. We put the car seat onto the kitchen countertop and then put her in it. And Lanissa is like next to me, and then my husband is next to her, putting Penelope into the car seat. So you know, like whenever you have a car seat, you have that little like hood over it. It produces like a little bit of a shadow. And I'm looking at Penny and I'm watching her chest rise, of course, the whole entire time. And I'm looking at her face and notice her face start turning gray. And now I know, holy cow, she's about to stop breathing again. So I look at my husband, I was like, take her out right now. So he like took her out right away, and he like stimulates her, and then she takes like another breath. We're like, oh my gosh. So like I literally throw my hands up in the air. I look at my husband, I was like, no, we can't. There's no time to go to Texas Children's. We need to call 911 right now. They need to come to us. So we call 911. My husband goes outside and he decides to wait for the ambulance while Lanissa and I are inside. So Lanissa's holding Penelope at this point because I'm too busy freaking out and literally just feel like our world is crashing, that at any moment we could lose our child. We were so scared. I can't explain this feeling at all because it literally was the worst day of our lives. Okay, I'm not gonna cry. Yeah, so it was very scary. We didn't know if our daughter was gonna lose her life at 4 days old, that we hadn't even gotten a chance to fully enjoy with her yet. The ambulance comes and they come in with a stretcher and this machine to measure her oxygen levels. And by the time, oh actually even before that they arrived, within those 10 minutes, it took forever. And I'm not saying that to be exaggerating, it probably took close to 15 minutes for them to get there. And those 15 minutes are so precious whenever your baby has stopped breathing 3 different times in like the last hour. So we were on edge every single second, and my husband kept coming inside and yelling like, is she okay, is she okay? And I'd look at Lanissa, and the reason that she was holding her also is because she was also having her hand on her chest to see if her chest was rising, just to make sure she's breathing. And during like the 3rd time that my husband runs in, he's like, is she breathing? Like, everything okay? Look at Lanissa, and she's like, honestly, they need to get here now. They need to be here right now because she's breathing, but it's shallow. She's not taking good breaths. And like, she literally, like Lanissa even said, like, I literally feel like she could stop breathing at any moment again. Like, I even come outside and my husband and I are literally just embracing each other, bawling our eyes out until the ambulance comes. And finally the ambulance comes, and they come in with the stretcher and the oxygen, little machine that tells the oxygen levels, and it's like a percentage. And when they put it on, it climbed all the way up to 100%. But thank goodness for Lanissa being there and being an RN, being someone that's more credible, I guess you could say. She was like, you guys still need to go to Texas Children's. Like, I saw it happen in my arms. She did stop breathing. I know for sure that she did stop breathing, and she needs to be taken now. Just whenever a baby, or I guess a certain age, if they're so young and something like this happens, I don't know what kind of a doctor it is, but it's like a doctor that is with an ambulance team. I don't know, but they're like in their own separate cars. I forgot what it's called, to be honest, like a chief or something. I don't know. Totally butchering the title, I'm sure. But he's a medical doctor, and so he came literally like a couple minutes after the ambulance did, maybe like 2-3 minutes. He comes in and he assesses her, and he's like, well, maybe she has like sleep apnea. He's like, sometimes this just happens. And as he's talking, I'm like, okay, if you don't know what this is, it sounds mean, but in my head, I'm like, if you don't know what she has or what issues are happening, we need to go. Like, we need to go to Texas Children's. We need to start running tests on her instead of sitting here and playing this guessing game. I mean, that's just how I felt. This whole night has already been so traumatic. We need to just go. So you go in the ambulance, and of course I ride along too, and she's in the car seat. And they have the oxygen level on her, and I'm watching that thing like a freaking hawk, making sure that it doesn't drop. And you hear all these different monitor things, I think, on her. I think one was probably for her heart rate, and then the other one was for her oxygen levels. And I just remember the guy in the ambulance in the back just trying to create conversation with me, which I was trying to be nice, but I was kind of not having. I responded to everything he was saying, but I wasn't really like contributing to the conversation because you're hearing all of these beeps from these monitors, and anytime like you hear an offbeat, you're like, wait, what's happening? So like literally I had no shame. I was like, wait, what is that?
He's like, oh, her oxygen level dipped for a second, but it's back up.
I'm like, okay. The hospital's about 20 minutes from our house. My husband's in the car behind us with all of our stuff. I just remember being in the ambulance and it feeling like a
lifetime.
It took us like 19 minutes to get there. My husband later told me, he was like, we were going the speed limit, which I get it. You need to be safe on the roads, but cheese and rice. Like, my daughter stopped breathing 3 different times. We need to get there now. And it was a 9 p.m., whatever, 9 something at night, and there's no traffic. So there's like no one else on the road really. Why aren't we going a little bit faster? We didn't even have the sirens on, we just had the lights on. And maybe it's because they didn't deem it an emergency, but I don't know, to me it was, obviously. We get there and they immediately asked us questions like what we saw, what was happening. And they suggested that they do blood work on her because they also have to see if she has a flu, because the flu is also a huge thing right now. But they also wanted to see if, we also wanted to do a spinal tap on her, which we're like, oh, holy cow, like, okay. And so they did, and we were in the room with her when this happened. We couldn't look at all. And of course she's crying like crazy from the spinal tap, which is really sad. And they wheel us up to the NICU, which was really scary because everybody has masks on, with this gown on basically from head to toe, which I get because the flu is a big thing and they can't catch a flu because they're obviously watching other NICU babies. It took a little bit for the flu results to come back. It turns out it was negative. And then I think like 3 in the morning, 2 in the morning, whatever time it was, results came back that she was positive for meningitis. They just didn't know what kind yet, but they were gonna start her on antibiotics. So we could have stayed with her. She didn't have her own room, they're just like little pods. But there wasn't like a bed or anything. There was just one chair per ICU station. And my husband was really adamant about us going home, which I am really glad that he did, because we were gonna go home to sleep for, I think it was like 3.5 hours, which I obviously desperately needed because I hadn't slept in 4 days. It was the hardest thing in the entire world to leave her side. Your little baby's in the NICU in a scary room where she knows nobody, and the only scent, the only touch she's felt is mom and dad. And I struggled with leaving her side during such a critical time. But at the same time, I knew that I couldn't be there for her if I wasn't okay myself. And going on 4 days without sleep, how am I supposed to be there for her whenever doctors are trying to have conversations with me and talking about treatment plans? As like sad as I am still to say that I went home, I'm so glad I did. And if there are other moms out there that feel that guilt, know that it's okay and normal to feel that guilt, but also know that it's okay to take care of yourself, because you truly can't take care of your child if you're not okay. So we go home and I do sleep for the 3 hours, whatever it is, and we came back up. And I honestly felt like a new woman because I hadn't slept 3 hours straight yet in days. And I felt way more clear-minded, and even like my emotions were better. I was able to like stop sobbing, basically. And they did say that one of the nurse practitioners noticed some seizure activity, which was what I actually saw on this changing table when she threw her hands up in the air and it got stiff, her arms got stiff, and she was looking off to the corner. Same thing, I guess, happened during the night, during those 3-4 hours that we were gone. So they had to do an EEG, which basically measures, I guess, brain activity, seizure activity in your brain. Yeah, so that goes on into finding out what kind of meningitis she had and kind of her road to recovery. I plan on making a video about that. If you're interested on watching, it'll be on the next video. But for those that have asked, politely, of course, we actually haven't had anyone that was rude about like, I mean, of course, like, why would you, right? But no one has asked like rudely, like, what happened to her, like, I want to know what happened. Everyone's been really polite and really sensitive to asking us this, and how we landed in the ER at her only being 4 days old. But yeah, so that's basically what happened. It's kind of crazy how everything happened, and I'm gonna honestly say that everything happened for a reason. If I didn't question this doctor, I would have just gone with everything she said, I wouldn't have called my nurse friend over. If I didn't truly feel like my milk was coming in, I would have just started supplementing with formula. And I'm so glad that I kept with breast milk, because that truly has been helping her. If my friend wasn't over to witness whenever she stopped breathing, or the fact that she stopped breathing while we were awake. What if she stopped breathing while we were asleep? All these things like went through our minds, and I literally feel like everything happened for a reason. Like, we were awake when everything happened. And she was rushed to the hospital at 4 days old, and to find out that she had meningitis, whereas some people with their newborns may not find out till 2 weeks later after the baby's been born from other symptoms like a higher fever. We even questioned the low-grade fever. So again, if you're a new mom and you feel like something is wrong, you could be wrong, but what if you could be right? I'm really thankful that everything happened the way that it did. Of course, I wish it never happened at all, and so glad things kind of panned out the way that they should have. And God was definitely a play in this, because it could have gone so much worse. I don't think anything was a coincidence. I truly don't. I think miracles happen. And hopefully that's what's happening for us as she recovers from all of this. And those that are wondering, follow me on my social media to see everything live happening as we were going through this journey with her. You probably don't realize that she is now 2 months old. She's actually 2 months as of yesterday. I'm filming this on February 9th. She's 2 months old now, and this happened when she was 4 days old. It took me a really long time to make this video. This is actually my 3rd time trying. It's hard to talk about, but it's also very healing to talk about. We're able to tell this story over and over to medical professionals, but it's almost like when you're in the middle of it happening and you're still in the NICU and you're still trying to figure out what's happening, what's going on with her, with seizures and everything, you almost become numb to it. Like, I had postpartum emotions to deal with, but literally put that aside for the days or the weeks that we were in the NICU with her being treated for meningitis. And I didn't really deal with them until we got home. But I guess that's like a whole nother topic, another video if you want to listen on that. But yeah, you kind of go through this parenting mode where you know you need to get things done, and you talk through it, and you do it, and you do it for her, you do it for your child. Yeah, so it was really hard actually to put this video together. But again, I promised myself that this was going to be my journal. I was going to use YouTube as my own place to kind of share what's going on in our lives, whether it's good or bad. And it is really therapeutic for me to talk to, even though I'm speaking through a lens. I know that there's at least one person on the other end that's listening, and hopefully this other person could benefit from this somehow, whether it's to continue looking at the positives of everything that's going on, or if they're a new mom themselves, or they're going to be a new mom, or if even they're a seasoned mom and they have certain instincts that they're just never were sure about, and they feel like future situations that they should reach out for help. Anyways, that pediatrician is no longer a pediatrician. We were at Texas Children's Hospital for her treatment, and we decided to stick with them for a pediatrician. So if you need, if you were to ask my personal opinion, I highly, highly, highly recommend pediatricians from Texas Children's, because they have been absolutely the best. Very welcoming, very knowledgeable, very good at even listening. We were there for weeks, guys. So we met all different people, different doctors and different specialties and different nurses, and they're all amazing. So Texas Children's is awesome, and we love them, and that's who we stuck with. But that's basically all for today's video. I'm thinking of making another one. Let me know what you guys think of kind of her journey in a condensed version of the weeks that she spent in the NICU. Have a lot of videos of all the progress that she was making, and then also different pictures of different stepping stones that she was making throughout her time there. But again, thank you guys so much for watching this video. If you haven't already, please hit the subscribe button so you don't miss the next video. If you liked it, please give it a big old thumbs up. But until next time, bye guys.